Welcome back to Best Pod Available. Joe DeLeone and Ryan Roberts here to give you our latest first-round mock draft after the Senior Bowl. We're going to be projecting where we think that a lot of these top guys are going to land. Try not to overreact too much to some of the top performers at the Senior Bowl, but I'm sure some of that will bleed in. Ryan, you ready?
Yeah, man, let's do it. Rule number one, and the only rule that on this podcast show is nobody gets upset with mock drafts in February. Okay, so subscribe to the channel, hit that like button, and follow along
get
for
as
the
upset
ride.
as you want.
No,
get as upset as you want. Tell us in the comments how wrong we are. Just tell us. I don't care if you want to vent to us. It's totally fine. Some people need outlets to vent, and sometimes it's at people doing a mock draft on YouTube. All right. I'll start us off. Let's just get this out of the way. Fernando Mendoza, first overall pick. Who do you got next?
Yeah.
We're not even, by the way, no more analysis. We're just, every time that we do these, we're going to try and do mock drafts more often as we're increasing the volume of doing these shows. There's going to be more of these shows next week.
Yeah.
Fernando Mendoza comes off the board and we're just moving on. I'm not saying the same thing over and over again.
Joe, but you know what's funny? Every radio spot and podcast that come on now is like, is there any chance that the Raiders decide to not go with Fernando Mendoza? That's the question now, man. Everybody's asking it.
I know.
Everybody's asking it. Let's go Jets here. I think that there was an interesting conversation between edge versus kind of do-it-all defensive player like a Arvell Reese. I've seen Reese in this spot. I've seen David Bailey in this spot more recently. I've seen Ruben Bain in this spot. All very talented and different defensive players. I'm going to go with Arvell Reese, Joe. I'm going to stick to my guns on this one, man. I think it is a early down difference maker as a true inside linebacker that can also rush from different sub spots, both as an internal rusher, as a rusher off the edge. I think that he can do a little bit of everything. So Arvell Reese to the New York Jets.
Cardinals have always been really tricky. Now that Reese is off the board, it presents a little bit of a challenge for trying to figure out where they should go. I ultimately think that if you're trying to maximize your team's success in the first year with an offensive-minded head coach that you just hired, I think that you start to establish building blocks along your offensive line. I've been very bullish on Francis Mauigoa. I think that he's the best offensive lineman in this class. And I think that for anyone who might look at the arm length discussion as a weakness, I think that he's not a left tackle, first of all, but second of all, I think that his ability to be a high impact player, either at guard or at tackle, and in a draft class where there's really not a lot of blue chip players, I'd like to go with some reliability, especially for a franchise that hasn't had much reliability. So let's get Mauigoa, assuming that they're going to give Kyler one more shot this year, and they're going to try and have a much better protection for him.
I do understand the Cardinal fans that will be upset, though, because there's a possibility that you just took a guard at number 3. Like, I understand, like, the negativity
I think
that
he
comes
can play
from
right tackle.
I don't
really
necessarily
think that
disagree.
He can play right tackle.
Yeah. I don't necessarily disagree. There is a reality, though, where he is a guard, and that's kind of an interesting part of the conversation. Let's go Tennessee Titans here. I'm going to go with David Bailey. This has become like my de facto pick for them. Just because, Joe, I do think that you need a little bit more certainty as a pure outside track rusher for Tennessee right now. They have Jeffrey Simmons on the interior, who's a dominant interior rusher. They need a guy that for sure is a guy that can win the outside track, outside shoulder of offensive tackles. And there's going to be some people that are going to scream, don't overthink Ruben Bain. Well, I'm going to continue to overthink Ruben Bain because I have some concern to his evaluation and his transition to the next level. I think at worst, David Bailey is a plus pass rusher on the NFL level. And if the run game stuff continues to trend upward, I think that he could be an all-around just good player as a defensive end. So I will give them David Bailey to help their outside pass rush.
The Giants question is just basically which Ohio State player are they going to take? I think this comes Harbaugh taking over, I think really clarifies what directions they're going to go in. And I'm not saying that it's an obvious answer, but knowing the track record of drafting with the Ravens, and I think that he's going to have a lot of say in this decision. Mauigoa is off the board. That would have been the first selection I would have gone with. Caleb Downs and Sonny Styles are the next two most logical players. Now it comes down to positional value. Do they value the fact that Caleb Downs is just so great as a prospect, his instincts are at another level, and he feels like a Harbaugh-esque safety, game-changing player, great leader? I think a lot of those things make sense. Styles, on the other hand, does present an intriguing option because we know how successful Ravens defenses have been when they have had really elite athletic linebackers. I don't care if historically the Giants have not drafted linebackers early. Some of the best players that they've drafted in the history of their franchise have been early draft picks at linebacker.
Wait, is Cardinal Tate in this conversation at all, though? Another Ohio State guy, potentially?
I don't think that the receiver class is good enough to take a receiver at 5. I think that you can come back. Let me rephrase.
Yep.
I don't think that the top of this receiver class is good enough to take one at 5. When in the second round, if your priority is to get a receiver, there are going to be a lot of options in the second round. There's going to be good options in the fourth round, too. I don't think it's as pressing if you bring back Wan'Dale Robinson. So I'm going to go with Caleb Downs, though. I just think that a slightly more important positional value, and I think that he's a very rare safety prospect to that degree.
So I'm going to take Cardinal Tate to the Cleveland Browns, keep the Ohio State's player in the state of Ohio to be whoever the quarterback of the future is for the Cleveland Browns, to be their top pass game weapon. Because, I mean, Jerry Jeudy had a nice 2024 season, did not have a good 2025 season, and that room is just, it's suffering. It is begging for wide receiver talent. So we will see who the quarterback of the future is. I know that Cleveland Browns fans would have loved a quarterback to potentially be in the spot at 6, but after Dante Moore goes back to school and Trinidad Chambliss is suing the NCAA and a couple guys kind of had downtrodden 2025 seasons, it just ended up not being a good quarterback class. So give me Cardinal Tate to help whoever the quarterback of the future is for Cleveland.
So the Commanders are intriguing because Ruben Bain's on the board.
Yeah.
But the problem is I don't think that he's a scheme fit. Now, I know that they're transitioning defensive coordinators, but for a 3-4 team, he's not a stand-up rusher to me. He's a 4-3 defensive end.
3-4 defensive ends, though, potentially. I mean, he might be.
But is he long enough to be a 3-4 defensive end? And you already have.
He's not a prototype, but I think he can do it. Yeah.
You already have Jerjon Newton, too, and I don't know what the intention with Javon Kinlaw is on. I'm going to go with Sonny Styles. I think that Sonny Styles has been an intriguing option for the Commanders, and Bobby Wagner is a great player, obviously, but he's at the end of his career. You just need athletes on your defense. So let's go with Sonny Styles.
So this has been the Jeremiyah Love spot to the New Orleans Saints because of the parallels he has to Alvin Kamara with probably even more home run. With more home run juice than Kamara brings to the table. But I'm actually going to do a little bit different here, Joe, than I typically do. I'm going to give him Ruben Bain Jr. here, the defensive end out of Miami. I do think with Cam Jordan near the end of his career now, I do think if there is a world where Ruben Bain becomes a difference maker-ish player on the edge, it's kind of in the mold of Cam Jordan, who's kind of more that bigger body, physical type of edge rusher. So it might be a good player for maybe even him to learn for a year potentially. But I do think that they need a little bit more juice even without Cam Jordan or with Cam Jordan. Like they need more juice on the outside. So give me Ruben Bain Jr. At worst, he eventually becomes an interior player, and I think that he would be a very good one-gap interior player. So versatile player on the defensive line.
This is for the Chiefs fans that are aggressive advocates for the draft the defensive player early. This is a nightmarish situation because I've seen from some of the written mock drafts that we've done, there is an aggressive push. If Bain's on the board, you take him. I think if David Bailey's on the board, you take him. I think that there is a hope that Caleb Downs maybe is still on the board because that would be the most insane pairing of Spags and Caleb Downs. Right. I'm going to go with Jeremiyah Love, though, because I think that the rest of the board, to me, defensive tackle could be addressed, but this could be the Caleb Banks spot. Having two Chris Joneses would be nuts, but I don't think it's very necessary.
That was my comp in the preseason. Remember that was Chris Jones?
I've been saying that consistently, been bringing that up whenever people ask me about him. I'm going to go with Jeremiyah Love, though. Dude, could you imagine Patrick Mahomes with Jeremiyah Love next to him?
Nice.
I think that Pacheco, as solid as he's been, really is more of a second running back,
Agreed.
And nobody has ever wanted to really talk about this. I think that you have him as that spellback, the hard-nosed runner, and you've got Love, who's a home run. Dude, this would be one of the most nightmarish situations if the Chiefs ended up with a home run threat as gifted as Jeremiyah Love. So that to me should be a no-brainer, and I don't think Chiefs fans should be upset by that.
Did you see who the Kansas City Chiefs requested to interview for their running back coach position, Joe? Did you see this?
I did. I did see that.
A little DeLeone McCullough, Jeremiyah Love reunion in Kansas City, possibly?
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I don't know. Be pretty fun. Be pretty dang fun. Let's go to Cincinnati here. I mean, you have to take best defensive player available at this spot, right? Like all three levels, you could argue a safety, a corner, a linebacker, a defensive lineman. Probably not as much a linebacker after you invested a lot in the 2025 NFL draft. Even though I know that there's going to be a lot of fanfare for Caleb Banks for what he did in the Senior Bowl, Joe, I am going to go with Peter Woods. I'm going to go with Peter Woods here. That the ball of energy on the interior defensive line. I thought one of the biggest faults of the Bengals 2025 draft was it was a really good defensive tackle class last year, and they, for whatever reason, they chose not to touch the defensive tackle class in last year's group. I think that they need to this year. Peter Woods had a down 2025 season, but everyone on Clemson's team had a down 2025 season. He's still explosive, plays low to the ground, has versatility to move up and down the line of scrimmage. Peter Woods, interior rusher for the Cincinnati Bengals.
To me, the most obvious move for one of the teams that I feel like we could just assume what position they're going to take, but we maybe don't know who, is the Dolphins going corner. With the maneuvering that they had this offseason, they needed to find somebody, and they didn't have any opportunity to do that before the season. It's one of their weaker position groups, and I think that this is a chance with Hafley coming in to build a dangerous secondary because you've already got Minka. So if you get the right pick here, it is going to allow for you to hit the ground running and have a really great first year. Right. I like the idea of Mansour DeLeone, just knowing some of the success from the Packers defensive backs that Hafley has gotten. And I keep bringing this up. I don't think enough people talk about this. Yes, DeLeone is a great outside corner, but I think that there's versatility to him considering his background playing safety. So if you theoretically, you look at DeLeone and you think, you're a really good outside corner for us, we're actually going to play in the slot. Devon Witherspoon is one of the most valuable defensive backs in the NFL playing in the slot. Some of the best DBs in the NFL are slot corners. So I think that DeLeone, you take him and it allows for you to figure out, hey, which area do we think is more important to us?
Well, I talked to you for years on this show in different iterations about the value of having a cornerback that can follow guys both in the slot and outside and kind of negate matchup dictations, right? So I think DeLeone absolutely can play in the slot, and he can play a little bit outside corner. He's not the fastest corner of all time, but his short area stuff is really good, and he's tenacious. So I'm totally good with that pick. I think this is the most easy back-to-back corner spot in the first round, obviously, because with the moving on from Trevon Diggs, I know that they still have Deron Bland, but the Cowboys have a big need at corner right now, and I really just think we're sleeping on Jermod McCoy, man. I really think we are the corner out of Tennessee, because I understand that he didn't play in 2025, so some people are going to overthink him a little bit, but he's 6 foot, 196 pounds, has good length, has good long speed, dominated the SEC as a 19-year-old in 2024. I think once people see him back fully healthy, they're going to be like, yep, that was probably a top 5 player in the class that went later because of the injury stuff.
Rams, I think at 13 here, knowing that Havenstein is 33 years old, he's an upcoming free agent, this should realistically be that last aggressive launch to go on a run for one more Super Bowl for however long you expect Stafford to be around. So let's go with Spencer Fano, the Utah right tackle. He's already a right tackle. Don't need to make any assumptions and see if he can play transition over, drop him in at right tackle. I think he's probably one of the more ready-to-go players. I know that he's not fully baked and he needs a little bit more physical development. His ass got a little bit bigger, which was a concern for me coming into the season. We need tackles with big asses. That is super, super important. I'm a big butt guy. But I think that he also has upside to become one of the, very solid right tackle in the NFL.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that he has that upside to him for sure. He's a very good movement-based guy as well, and we know that the Rams under McVay have been a team in a run game at least that have loved movements, both inside, outside zone oriented stuff. So I can get there. This one becomes super interesting, Joe, because the run on wide receivers didn't start. So, like, Jordan Tyson and Makai Lemon are both staring the Ravens in the face, but then also Caleb Banks is there. That's a very interesting player on the interior defensive line.
Dude, could you imagine Banks and Matabike?
Yeah.
Oh, my
that would be fun.
God.
But I'm going to go with a wide receiver, though, even though that does sound super fun. I'm going to go with Jordan Tyson. I am admittedly terrified of the injury stuff with Tyson, the wide receiver out of Arizona State, because he tore 3 different ligaments, I believe, in 2022 for Colorado. He had the collarbone in 2024, and he had hamstring issues this past year. But I'm going to go with Tyson just because, if healthy, he was probably an easy top 10 pick in this year's class. So Jordan Tyson for Lamar Jackson in this draft.
Man, for the Buccaneers,
can I make a recommendation? There's a guy that I feel very...
Okay, go ahead. What's your recommendation?
I love the idea of Kenyon Sadiq to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Okay, that was going to be my suggestion. Okay. My other thought was Levante David is 36 years old.
Sure.
And taking C.J. Allen to take over that role is probably a good idea. But let's be creative here. I think I've done the C.J. Allen pick quite often recently, so let's go with Kenyon Sadiq. That's a really good point. You're trying to make Baker Mayfield's life easier.
Yeah.
Mike Evans, it's unclear if he's coming back. I think that it would be frustrating to double dip at wide receiver in back-to-back years. So you're not obviously replacing Mike Evans with Kenyon Sadiq, but you're adding size and athleticism to your weapon room. So let's go with Sadiq.
Yeah, and I also just think that Tampa Bay is going to have a lot of interest in an F tight end, kind of a flex guy that can move around a little bit. I think that's going to be a huge interest for them. New York Jets, I'm going to go with Makai Lemon. I feel like I usually land on Makai Lemon, the wide receiver from USC. Another team that needs to figure out the long-term at quarterback, but the quarterback board is obviously not in a good situation in the 2026 NFL draft. Makai Lemon, we're gonna overthink him to a degree because he's going to be 5'10 to 5'11, 195 pounds. He's probably going to run 4.5 flat. But that kid, man, can run routes for days. He's dynamite after the catch, stronger than you would think at the catch point. I love Makai Lemon.
All right, now coming back, I think that the Lions should try to, with the solid edge class, try and draft an edge defender early. We've said it 100 times over for the past 4 years since they drafted Aiden Hutchinson. Aiden Hutchinson needs a secondary rusher. Maybe this is a little controversial, and I know that people tend to get upset when you project a guy who had a good Senior Bowl to go higher than he was initially projected. I think that TJ Parker and Keldrick Folk have similarities in the sense that their production this year wasn't that good. They didn't take the leap that they were expecting to this year, but physically they're really gifted players with high ceilings.
Right.
So I think that if the debate's between Folk and Parker, there is not as much of an argument. There is no correct answer for comparing the two. And I think that that's something that is immediately forgotten naturally.
I think there's a correct answer.
What?
I think there's a correct answer.
I don't think that there's a correct answer. I have TJ Parker who had a really good week last week and kind of reminded everybody, hey, I've got really good tools.
He's got a long arm. He's got a long arm. That's his tool. He's got a long arm.
Don't steal my bit that I brought up last week. That's my bit that I brought up that I'm going to go with TJ Parker here. He was being projected as a late first rounder. He's going at pick 17. He's going to test well too. TJ Parker to me feels like that one guy who's going to be a riser throughout this process. And then everybody who said that's so stupid to draft him high is going to be kind of looking and scratching their chin going, I guess that did happen when he goes in the middle around pick 20 in the first round.
Hopefully Aiden Hutchinson can teach him anything else other than a long arm. Hopefully he figures something else out as a pass rusher.
The starting point, he's got more pass rush moves than Keldrick Folk does.
Oh, stop it. Let's go Minnesota Vikings. I would love to go Keldrick Folk, but they don't need a Keldrick Folk. They don't need him on this team. I'm going to go off the board here, Joe. A little off the board here, okay?
Uh-oh.
Actually, Caleb Banks is kind of interesting too. I'm still going to go off the board, though. Actually, no, man. Caleb Banks might make a lot of sense. No, I'm going off the board. I'm gonna be weird here and get people super upset. I'm gonna go with Dylan Thieneman, who is the safety out of Oregon here, to the Minnesota Vikings.
Really creative.
I thought about how is that not? He's not even the top safety on this draft simulator right now.
It's been the funniest bit that when.
Replace one white safety for
Harrison
another.
Smith's probably done. Yeah, let's find the next white dude
Dude, I think the fit makes so much sense, though, because if you think back to Thieneman, his first 2 years at Purdue, he was used a lot as a single high free safety. Then he goes to Oregon, and they use him much more as kind of a short zone robber box guy, right? So he has experience playing both roles. I think that there are some interesting parallels to how you could utilize him in Minnesota's defense to what Harrison Smith did do. And I think that he also might even have a little bit more coverage upside because he's a little bit more range on the back end. So while it's going to be a tough act to follow, and I don't think that he'll ever be as good of an overall player as Harrison Smith, I do think his style does fit. So Dylan Thieneman, a little bit of an off-the-wall one at 18 to Minnesota.
The Panthers have been one of the harder teams to project because of the fact that they technically have a needed edge.
Yes.
But to me, it's not their most glaring need because you have two young guys that were on the more developmental side with Scourton and Uman Mielen. And I think that there were positive signs for what it could become. I'm leaning maybe going a Keldrick Falk here, but I just feel like we're bailing a little bit too quickly on letting those guys grow, unless internally there's something I don't know about.
Who else would you go with? C.J. Allen? I guess I'm curious where else you would go.
Well, yeah, I was going to go with C.J. Allen because I think that at the very least there's more of a glaring need at linebacker, and I don't think that this is a crazy overdraft to throw C.J. Allen to me, man, is just like a total dude that helps build the culture on your defense, and your defense showed a lot of positive signs. So you plug in a guy like this, and by week 8, we're talking about how C.J. Allen was the missing piece for the team, and maybe he's not a pick that is met with a ton of excitement at the time of it. So I'm going to go with C.J. Allen.
So I would like to not overthink this one at all, and go with Keldrick Falk to the Dallas Cowboys at pick 20.
Yeah.
I don't think
that's a dream scenario.
Yeah, I also don't think anybody would, like, even the people that aren't high on Keldrick Falk in the draft, if you tell them that you get him at pick 20, I don't think anybody would even say much of a backlash on that one, because after drafting a corner with your first pick, after still needing to address the edge spot just in general for the Dallas Cowboys, Keldrick Falk is nowhere near a finished product, but if you can't get excited about working with a guy that is a 6'6", 280-plus pound edge that can move up and down the line of scrimmage and has just a lot of upside to continue to tap into, I think at pick 20 that is a good thing to invest in. So Keldrick Falk, Dallas Cowboys.
I know this has become extremely cliche, but I just find it really hard to believe that the Steelers, if Ty Simpson is still on the board at pick 21, I mean, heck, I almost feel as though they might be enticed to trade up to go get Ty Simpson. They are in a hellish position where there's really not any good free agent options unless they think that they can invest in Malik Willis, they can get Malik Willis, and they feel confident that Malik Willis is the path forward for
Kirk Cousins is out there, baby. Kirk Cousins is out there somewhere. He's out there somewhere.
Oh, my God. You know what? I'm going to go with Ty Simpson again. It's cliche. I thought that Simpson's tape, before he got banged up, before the offensive line stopped trying, before the run game really, really disappeared, I thought he showed a lot of positives. I feel like there's something in there, and this could be a good stopgap situation with a good roster. For them, yes, to go and maybe bring in Kirk for a year to see if they can compete. And then it doesn't go well, you turn things over to Ty in year 2 of Mike McCarthy.
It's fair, man. It's fair. I was actually just looking at the defensive line depth chart for the Chargers because I'm trying to decide if it would be better for me to go with Caleb Banks, or would it be better for me to go with Caden McDonald? Because obviously they are much different players. Caden McDonald is much more of that pure nose tackle type. Caleb Banks is 6'6", 330 and can move all over the place. I'm going to go with Caleb Banks just because I think he offers a little bit more upside. I am a huge fan of McDonald, but McDonald is a pure nose. Like, that's what he is. Caleb Banks could play some nose. He could play some 3, play some 4-eye if you want to do a little bit of different types of variations of fronts. So Caleb Banks, Los Angeles Chargers.
Not much analysis going into this one. Avion Terrell's on the board. You need a good starting second outside corner. We've been kind of playing this goofy game of Dory Jackson and Keely. You need to.
Remember when they traded for the dude from the Raiders and then he barely played? What was that guy's name? That was a fun time. The Maryland kid. He went to Maryland. I graded him. I just forget his name, but yeah.
Yeah. It was one of those weird moves that everyone kind of thought that they were moving on a different level, and
yeah.
They got to go with Terrell though here. I think that I have not finished my grading on Terrell because I haven't gotten to corners yet.
Yeah,
but I have seen enough of him to believe that he's a first round corner.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun because I think some NFL teams are gonna view him as almost a pure nickel. Others are gonna view him as an outside. Others are gonna view him as like a versatile guy.
Well, Najee could bump outside if you really bring him in, and you're like, man, he can't do well outside. I don't think that it would be insane to suggest.
I think it's
doing that.
I think it's easier to find a guy that can definitely play slot for you than it is to find a bona fide dude outside. So yeah, if you think that DeLeone can be that guy on the outside, I think that he presents a lot of flexibility for a secondary for sure. Easy one for me, man. The Browns need offensive tackles desperately, so I'm going to give him Caleb Lomu here. And Caleb Lomu, the left tackle for Utah that still is super young, only just turned 20, I think, pretty recently. He's got a lot of upside he brings to the table. The Browns have needs at both tackle spots, so adding offensive linemen is a huge priority this offseason. So give me Lomu to pair with Carnell Tate earlier in the first rounds.
All right, I'm jumping right over to edge because this has been a team this past year that was frustrating to watch because you would see whichever quarterback they were facing would have 20 minutes back there before anybody would even come in striking distance of him. But now I'm kind of grappling with who makes the most sense. There's not really a riser.
A lot of second round edges there unless you value Cassius Howell that high, and maybe an R. Mason Thomas. But yeah,
is R. Mason Thomas? They run a 4-3.
You know who's the weirdest guy to project in this class for me, Joe? And I've seen him in first round mocks a lot lately. Is Akeem Mesidor out of Miami?
I like him. He's just older. He's not super fluid, but his hands are freaking awesome.
He's a very nuanced kid because he's been playing forever. I'm not insulting him. He just is very experienced, right? But, is that a kid that you want to draft in the first round? There was nothing about Akeem Mesidor when I was watching. I was like, that's a first rounder. But, in this draft, again, it's the floor versus ceiling conversation that we always have. Do you just want the guy that's going to be a steady pro pass rusher at 25, or do you want to take a shot at a guy that might have more upside than that? That's the question.
Okay, so this doesn't really help me narrow. Do you think R. Mason Thomas could be I
love R. Mason Thomas.
4-3 defensive end?
No, I do not. I think he's a
that's
pure
my
stand-up.
point.
I mean, but all those guys are pure stand-up guys.
Akis here.
Akis that's too high
this
for
is my
Akis,
problem.
Though. It's too high for Akis.
Is LT Overton this high?
Yeah,
is also
it's too high. It's too high.
ridiculous.
I mean, your best options are stand-up rushers. If you believe on Cassius Howell or Army, the one thing I'll say about Cassius Howell, he has no length, but he actually does have some pop in his pads a little bit. He plays hard against the run. He's never going to be a good run defender, but he at least tries. You know what I mean? So, if there's a guy there that is a 4-3 defensive end comparatively to one another at those top two, it's probably Howell over R. Mason Thomas, even though I do personally like R. Mason Thomas more as a football player.
God, this is a trade-out spot if I've ever seen one.
Yeah, but I guess it's going Howell. Who wants to trade in this class? Not a damn person.
I know.
Can I counterpoint you?
I guess I'm going to
counterpoint you. Counterpoint. It's not going to help your pass rush, but why not a Caden McDonald in this spot as an interior defensive lineman? Why not?
Well, they have Grady Jarrett coming back and Gervon Dexter coming back.
Who both stink. They're both not good right now.
Yeah,
so,
you know what?
Yeah.
You know what? You're right. Let's go with Caden McDonald because at interior depth, this is a hellish situation to be in because any worthy fit for you at edge isn't on the board. So.
Can I vent for a second? How the heck is Denzel Boston rated above Casey Concepcion in this mock draft simulator? I know this isn't actually the mock draft simulator's fault. It's just the data they
best
pull.
mock draft simulator that we've had. So let's not.
No, I'm not insulting the actual simulator because they're pulling the data from other places. This is other people's fault, not the simulator's fault. You know what I mean? This isn't the board that they created. They're bringing in information from outside sources and probably creating some type of consensus board. I would assume. That's what I assume.
So I assume you want KC then?
I do want Casey Concepcion. Absolutely. I know that we are going to assess over getting a tall boundary receiver with the lapse and the inconsistencies, obviously, that we've had of Keon Coleman and the failure that pick has been. But they also just, Khalil Shakur is a good separator, and he does some stuff after the catch, but he's not lightning in a bottle like Casey Concepcion. They don't have this guy that can turn a 3-yard pass check down to a 60-yard gain. They just don't have that type of dude. So Casey Concepcion for Josh Allen, absolutely.
49ers are another tricky team. A lot of their defensive struggles came from injuries. You could maybe go defensive tackle here. Not many wide receivers that I think totally fit that get me geeked up. That I
wish Chris Bell was healthy, man. I wish he was healthy. Like, I don't know if I told you, Joe, but I heard that Chris Bell might be out for like most of the 2026 season. It sounds like.
Oh, that's
I didn't tell you that.
Brutal.
Yeah.
The timing of his injury was
unfortunate.
Terrible. Is it pronounced Ione?
Dude, you're asking me. I have no idea.
Vega Ione. Okay.
Yeah,
all right. Well,
Vega,
this is
Vega Ione. Let's go with that. Yeah, sounds right.
Vega Ione. I was on a radio spot in Cleveland, and they asked me if it's Jennings or Gennings, and I said, I got to be honest with you, it's the beginning of the cycle. It's Jennings? I thought it was Jennings.
Nope, it's Jennings.
Yikes. I said Jennings. I said at the beginning of the cycle, it is a process of just kind of saying guys' names wrong, and if you can find it somewhere, you find it somewhere.
Yep.
But for the most part, you're just waiting until somebody corrects you, and then you get the correct name, and then usually there's a third or a fourth correction because everybody's been saying
the wrong thing
names
for
wrong.
months. Yeah,
right.
Speaking of Jennings Dunker, I'm just kidding. I'm not taking Jennings Dunker at this time.
Oh my god.
Houston Texans, though, I will tell you the guy that I think could end up being offensive tackle 1 in this class, Joe, over the next couple months of a debate is Monroe Freeling out of Georgia. Like, I think that he has an interesting case as an upside guy.
Do you like Freeling?
I do like Freeling. Yeah, I like Freeling.
Wow, that's surprising.
Why?
I don't know why I feel like you wouldn't be a Freeling
He's
guy.
an athletic guy that's flexible. That's my flavor. Like, that's my flavor.
All right.
Yeah. 6'6", 315-ish pounds, 310, 315. Former high recruit who was... He was baptized in 2024. Like, it was a struggle bus in 24. 2025, I thought there was struggles the first couple games of the season, but down the stretch, man, I thought he was a lot more consistent from a technical perspective, and he's a little bit of a freak. Like, I've heard that he's going to jump like 33-plus inches in the vert. He's going to broad jump like mid-nines, most likely. Like, he's a very athletic dude, so... Houston Texans, they took Ariante Ursery, who played a lot at left tackle this past year, but like you can be versatile with Ursery, move him around, or you can move Monroe Freeling around too. Like, you need to figure out those tackle spots though. So Freeling, Houston Texans.
This is annoying because I think that the Rams and some of these teams in the back end could go with corners, and as we talked about, there wasn't really anybody that we were hoping we wanted guys to step up last week and nobody did, so we're kind of still sitting in this weird.
I still like Colton Hood. I do think Colton Hood is.
Yeah,
I think he's a little scheme specific, but like I still like him. I still do like Colton Hood a lot. So yeah.
All right, you're back up.
New England. It's like, again, man, I want to just give them the Chris Bell. Like, I just want to give him a Chris Bell. If you could tell me that Chris Bell was going to be back by October, but I just have my doubts that Chris Bell is going to be back by October. So I don't want to.
Wait. Yeah. Can I pitch you on? Can I pitch you on someone because I agree with you the receiver issue?
Sure.
Max Hianachor. They need to grow their offense. Their offensive line is been completely masked for how weak it is. And I think that we need more athletes, more big, strong athletes with good length. He's a right tackle. Maybe he doesn't start right away, but eventually he becomes a starter.
Can you just show me the full board for a second? I'm listening to you, man. I'm listening to you. I promise. I'm not dismissing you, Joe. I'm not dismissing you.
The other option's Cassius Howell.
I'm going R. Mason Thomas. Edge at Oklahoma.
That's right.
So Vrabel's scheme, and it's adopted obviously from the old Belichick, New England-ish scheme, is that they are a versatile front that does have some stand-up rushers a part of this a lot. So I think R. Mason Thomas brings some pass rush juice. I know that a lot of people are going to yell for Cassius Howell. I like Cassius Howell, but I am going to be honest, I still don't love Cassius Howell. I've tried to talk myself into Cassius Howell a lot more than I want to. I think R. Mason Thomas, if the medicals check out, is a just easy NFL pass rusher for the next decade. Like, he's going to rush the passer. So, R. Mason Thomas.
Broncos are also kind of perplexing because the one thing that I'm kind of wondering is I don't know what they're trying to do with John Franklin Myers.
Right.
And if they there's nobody on the board anyways that would make sense to take to replace him. Oh my God, this is awful.
Dude, it's so hard when a team has like a pretty good roster, right? Where you're like, there's not a lot of easy needs on the roster.
You just get yelled at for reaching on a position that they don't really need. I mean, maybe we go.
Are they such a good roster that they could afford to take Chris Bell and just kind of redshirt him for a year? Like, are you in that position? I don't know.
Or I was just going to say, Denzel Boston, they've already got a lot of size at receiver, so I don't know if
that's what I was saying. That's what I was saying with Chris Bell is more like that after catch physical guy than like the true boundary presence. You know what I mean? Like that's kind of where I was going with it. Because like I think that Chris Bell could be a big slot in the NFL and just like kill after the catch. Like that's what he could do for me, in my opinion. So,
but just knowing historically, though, I don't want to project Chris Bell in the first round because I think that guys with injuries like that, NFL teams freak out.
Christian Miller,
and they always overreact.
Christian Miller, like a D tackle. I mean, like a high floor D tackle interior player. Like I don't know. Just talking.
Yeah, I mean DJ Jones had a solid year this year. Let's to save ourselves some strain. Let's assume that John
Lee Hunter. But
they're good at nose. They're good at nose with DJ Jones. So I'm going off of the assumption that John Franklin Myers does not come back in free agency, and they decide to go with. Could Christian Miller play that?
I think he's got a nose-ish too, you know? He's a little nose-ish.
I think he's a little bit longer, a little more fluid than Lee Hunter is, though.
He's not longer. Lee Hunter's got like 34 and 5/8 inch arms or something like that.
Sorry.
Yes.
I think that he's a better fit. He's
a little more
fluid. He could more capably play as a 3-4 end. I'm not putting Lee Hunter at end. That's never happening in a million years.
That's fair.
Let's go with Christian Miller and at least add depth to defensive tackle.
Joe, we need to go offensive line, man. Needs to go offensive line. The Seattle Seahawks have one of the worst right guard situations in the NFL. A guard. I need a guard, I think, man. I mean, you could upgrade Abraham Lucas. Can you go to the interior board for me for a second? I'm thinking of just figuring something out there.
No. That's gross.
Chase Basantis?
Take a tackle, bump him inside.
Chase Basantis?
Basantis isn't bad, but I feel like Proctor's still there.
Yeah, you're right. And let's be honest with ourselves with the predictive nature, although I just personally don't want to do it. Caden Proctor's probably going first round, just based upon his size and explosiveness. Yeah. So Caden Proctor to play right guard for the Seattle Seahawks is how we finish it out here.
All right, everybody, do us a favor. Comment below. Do you hate or love the pick that we gave for your team? Hit the like button, hit subscribe. We're going to be doing likely 2 to 3 shows a week starting next week. There's going to be a lot more content coming out. Help us get to 1,000 subscribers. The already immediate growth, we've been barely posting on this channel. The immediate growth as we've been kind of testing things to set the foundation has been unbelievable. So help us out. Make sure you subscribe. You hit the like button. We'll catch you guys later.